So underlining is done for several different purposes. And one of the reasons underlining is used is to create more body to the fabric. And I've talked about this so many times. We get mesmerized by the visual appearance of a textile. And then our mind imagines it in this beautiful jacket. And oh, wouldn't it look gorgeous? And it would, but the big problem is the fabric's just too limp to hold up to a jacket structure. So underlining it could get you that specific look you're looking for. You get that textile look, you get the visual, but you add the body by adding an underlining. So it's another fabric that lays behind the main fabric. Also, underlining is often done for warmth. So lining pants for people who work outdoors, and they underline them in a flannel. But you can underline all kinds of garments if you just need that extra warmth. So for body or for warmth. But one of the things that I've done, and Jessica's pulled some of the jackets out of my closet that have really stood the test of time. I can't even tell you how old some of these jackets are. They were so old that the pattern was out of date and has been brought back. So that's how old these jackets are. And they're underlined in silk organza because they either are 100% linen or they're 40-60, 50-50. There's different combinations here. But I travel a lot. I did, especially back when I made the jackets. And they needed to go from the suitcase to the closet in the hotel and back on my body. I didn't want all the extra fuss, particularly with the,
She only likes to use the iron if it's for sewing.
Yeah, while I'm constructing. After that, I'm not so excited about using the iron, especially the ones in the hotel. And the ironing board, the ironing board that wobbles like this, and the iron that barely gets warm. So anyway, I started lining in silk organza when a friend of mine wrote a fabulous article about underlining, and he's a couture expert, and I went, oh, this is a really great idea. Then I was lucky enough, another acquaintance, I was visiting his studio in New York, that was Koos Vandenecker, and his people were fusing two fabrics together with a spray adhesive rather than, because normally when you underline back in the day, what they taught us to do is you cut two pieces out, one of your fashion fabric, one of your underlining, then you put them together, pin all the way around, then hand or machine based all the way around to hold those two pieces together, and then you can use it as one piece. So then you pretend like it's one piece. No more do you recognize that it's two pieces. So when I saw what they were doing at Koos' studio with the spray adhesive, and I remembered what I had learned about the silk organza, I put the two together, and it is a fabulous solution to underlining with the least amount of trouble and the fastest and best results. So I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, so I just grabbed...
Do you want to show them inside of your jacket?
Okay.
See what we were talking about?
Yeah, this is the silk organza, and it's just floating there. Okay, so I just grabbed a pattern piece. I probably wouldn't be doing it with this particular garment, but what was most important to me is to be able to demonstrate this to you and use a small pattern piece. So I chose a child's shirt pattern just to show you how to do it on one piece. So in this example, it's going to be a sleeve. Now, one little tip that I always like to give, and so I thought I would just share that with you. It has nothing to do with the underlining, but I always extend the grain line all the way to the edge of the pattern piece when I'm using a stripe or a plaid. And then before I cut it out, all I have to do is line up the straight of the grain with one of the lines of the woven plaid, and I'm done.
I feel like we need like a graphic bonus tip. Bonus tip.
Yeah, bonus tip. And then I just take my chalkener and draw around the pattern piece. Now the reason I can do that is because I have this on tag board. And this is what most designers use, especially if you're going to use the pattern a lot. So you just go all the way around with the chalkener, take it off, and you can see it leaves a nice visible line. I didn't trace the whole thing for you, but you can see it. And then I would just cut it out with my rotary cutter. So I'd have my pattern pieces. So I cut out all the pieces for whatever garment, and this is generally done on jackets. And then I'm going to use some spray adhesive. So here's my little sleeve piece, and this is what I call my spray booth. It's just a little cardboard box to keep the spray from getting everywhere. And I'm going to spray this up here where you can see it, but I would never recommend that you do it on your cutting table. This is washable spray adhesive, so it will come off. And this is readily available at Joann Fabrics. And it is a temporary basting spray. So this takes the place of hand or machine basting. And it completely washes out when you're done. I've tested it many times. So they recommend that you shake it up really good before you spray it. In the meantime, I've cut a piece of silk organza. Now if I'm doing a whole garment, I'm going to put a huge, all the silk organza out and adhere all the pieces at once.
So it's obviously hard to see on the camera since it's sheer. It's just a square piece. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've just cut out a piece. You can kind of, there's the,
okay.
I kind of like outline it here a little bit for you. Yeah, it is pretty much.
I mean, we'll see when we get to the next step, but I just wanted to make that clear.
And the beauty of this, what I love about my cutting table, is I have that grid. And I can see that grid under here. And I've lined up the edge of the organza on one of those grid lines. So I know I'm keeping the grain straight. So then we're just going to give this a nice all over spray.
That's a squeaky can.
Yeah, it's a brand new can.
Now, I'm sure you guys can't see this, but the reason she's telling you she would never do this on her table is it's in the air. It is everywhere. You think you have it contained, but you do not.
I usually do it someplace outside of the area, and if it's nice, go outside. But anyways, I've sprayed that on there on the wrong side of the fabric, and now what I want to do, and the bigger the piece, the more little tricky it can get, because it might stick to itself, but that's not going to be a problem because it'll come right back off. So I'm lining this up with the grid here on that same stripe I used for my straighted grain. And once I've got that done, it's repositionable, so don't worry. See, it's all getting all stuck up here, but I can just peel this back, get everything nice, and just smooth it across. And now it is stuck down. And once I have all the pieces of the jacket all stuck to the silk organza, then all I have to do is cut it out again. Be careful. So I'm just going to cut around the pattern piece. Now you might say to yourself, oh, couldn't I just stick the whole piece of fabric to the organza and then cut them all out at once? That is not easy. Now you have this huge piece of fabric that could get all stuck to itself and corners and things. So I wouldn't try that. You can if you want to, but this works out really well for me. And now we have this adhered to the back, and it's all one piece. Now I just used this piece as if that never happened. This will stay in place pretty well throughout the entire construction. 2 tips. One is, don't go sew it right away. Give it, again, just like with the interfacing, I'd rather do all this the day before and come back the next day and sew it. But at least give it 20 minutes or so that you're not gumming up your needle. Because that is a spray adhesive. It's going to dry, and once it's dry, it's not going to gum up your needle. But if you were to be in a hurry, which, ask me how I know, you'll gum up your needle. So let it dry and cure. The other thing is that you're going to notice it's a little stiff. And it'll be a little stiff while you're sewing it. So don't worry. It has not changed the hand or the drape of the fabric. Once I complete the entire garment, I throw it in the washing machine and the dryer and then press it, and all the stiffness goes away. And again, as we showed you before, this just ends up floating back here, and therefore it's kind of acts like tissue paper in the fact that when you sit down or you bend your arms, you aren't creating real strong permanent creases in the fabric. Just it'll fold more softly because you've got that layer behind it kind of cradling it and keeping it from mashing down and getting a tight crease. Okay, so that is underlining with silk organza.